Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is
episode 266. Welcome to part 2 of my interview with Catharine Arnston, the founder of Adhd. If you didn't listen to the last episode, you definitely want to go back, but you can start just listening from here because we get into talking about vitamin K2 and how chlorella helps the body not only to detoxify heavy metals and all the nutrients that are in it, but the most amazing nutrient, which is vitamin K2, and its role that it plays in the body in reversing and preventing heart disease and building healthy bones. It's quite fascinating. We left off, Catharine, in part 1, Catharine was about to share an amazing testimonial that brought tears to my eyes when I first heard it, and I know you will thoroughly enjoy hearing exactly what it's done for this woman who has stage 4 cancer. So without further ado, enjoy part 2.
You know, we're on this path because we know we're making a difference in people's lives and their health. And just about a month ago, we received an email from someone. She actually was, we got the email from her friend because her friend knew that this woman, her name is Liz, didn't at first want anybody to know what was going on with her. Turns out she's a young mom. She has 3 children. She's 35, and she was diagnosed with a year ago with uterine cancer, stage 4 uterine cancer that had metastasized into her bones, lungs, and liver. She went through chemotherapy. She lost 60 pounds, all her hair. Nothing stopped this cancer. Then she said she went on to try every single supplement that she could find. Nothing was helping her. She was basically bedridden for the last year. Couldn't get out of bed, and the only thing that was keeping her alive was the love for her children, because she just didn't want to die and leave them. So what happened was somehow her story made its way to a friend of hers who lived in Kansas, and her friend in Kansas had been using our algae for quite a while, and just sent her 2 bags, a bag of energy bits, the spirulina, and a bag of recovery bits, and begged her to at least try them. Within 2 weeks, this woman who had been bedridden for a year was able to get out of bed. Unbelievable. So that's when her friend in Kansas wrote us to tell us about her situation. And in fact, I'll just read from you what she wrote to us, because then she thanked us so much. And then when we became aware of her situation, then we started sending her complimentary bags. And we got the second email from her just a few weeks ago. And she said, by summer of 2017, I was in constant pain. My blood counts and iron had plummeted. I lost my hair and 70 pounds. I was unable to sleep and could barely walk to and from the restroom without fainting. To say my body was struggling is an understatement. I tried the best multivitamins available at high-end health stores, food stores, and did not feel any better. In fact, I felt worse. Doctors were unable to find relief and help for my body. By winter of 2017, I was bedridden for 90% of my day due to my weakness and fainting. I was certain I would never be able to function normally again. That all ended when a dear friend shipped me bags of energy bits and recovery bits algae tablets. Within 2 weeks of taking them, I quickly gained strength and was able to walk around. It's almost been 2 months now, and I do not leave home without my energy bits and recovery bits. The benefits of their algae has been so incredible, I have to share my testimony so that others will consider nourishing their bodies with it as well. Recovery bits and energy bits, algae tablets have given me back so much of my life. Thank you. And that was the first email we got from her. And then we received another one last week that said she's now walking around. She's out and about the house. One of her daughters is 5, and she begs her mother, Liz, to take. She says, "Have you taken your medicine yet, Mommy?" Because they know how powerful this is to help this woman. So we're not allowed to say that we can stop cancer. The FDA would shut us down in a heartbeat. But all I'm doing is reading to you and to your listeners the exact testimony that we received from someone who was quite ill And, our bodies can heal themselves, but we just have to give them what it needs, our bodies need, and take away what it doesn't. And so she was clearly deprived of some nutrient, or some blend of nutrients that, because the algae is so concentrated, seemed to be able to boost her immune system sufficiently that she was able to, feel better. And I can hardly wait to hear from her. I hope to hear from her in a couple more weeks to see how she's doing, and I'll let you know. But I cried when I read this email, and I just read you verbatim exactly what she sent to us, and she just asked for her privacy to be protected, so because she's struggling still. So, but there you go. I mean, that's what gets me up in the morning every day, knowing that we're helping people like that. And this is not the first customer who's let us know that we've changed their lives. We had another client who's become a very good friend, and she had breast cancer, and she just couldn't get her blood counts back up, and she was so fatigued. And she used to be a marathon runner, and she met me almost 2 years ago, and she didn't believe either, but she bought some, and then things started happening, and she now goes to cancer clinics and helps people. She takes extra bags of algae with her, so they'll try it. And it's not just cancer, it's heart disease. And I do want to be sure we talk about the K2, because that's a huge shift, the ability of vitamin K2 to prevent heart disease and osteoporosis, and it's also in the algae. So,
Awesome.
but yeah.
I love
So
it.
it's
love
pretty
it.
amazing. I'm so proud and honored to be part of the algae story. And again, I can't take any credit other than for helping people understand it and make it part of their daily routine.
Right.
So
Do you want to just touch on some of the bullet points that you haven't covered yet about chlorella, or do you
yeah,
feel you
yeah.
feel you adequately covered chlorella, or
No, no, because it is so powerful, and if I had to choose between the two of them, I think I would choose chlorella myself, not only
mm-hmm,
for the taste but for the health benefits. So we mentioned that it has the highest concentration of chlorophyll, which is very cleansing, and it has 1,000 times more chlorophyll than any other green. So if you or your children are not eating enough vegetables or greens, or your husband, and men notoriously do not eat a lot of greens, just give them a single serving of chlorella, and they've got what they need, at least from a chlorophyll perspective. It doesn't give you much fiber because it has zero net carbs, but it will give you the chlorophyll, which is the cleansing part, and the health benefits. Chlorella also has the highest concentration of RNA and DNA in the world. Until chlorella was studied and found it has the highest concentration, it was sardines that was known to have the highest amount of RNA and DNA. And the reason why this is important is because as you age, your RNA and DNA become damaged, and so they start replicating in a damaged form, and that contributes to aging and disease and wrinkles. So to have RNA and DNA being provided to your body will help with your cellular health. It will help with any kind of wellness aspect. It will help with your skin health. And remarkably, if you have an injury or any kind of surgery, it will help with your healing with that too, because everything will heal much, much faster. So it has the chlorophyll, it has the RNA and DNA, still has a lot of high protein, it still has some essential fatty acids, not as much as spirulina, and the creme de la creme, the crowning jewel of chlorella, as far as I'm concerned. And I didn't even know we had it in our chlorella until a couple of months ago, until after my first interview with you, is vitamin K2. Now, a lot of your listeners may not be familiar with vitamin K2, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of what it is and why it's so important, and why virtually everybody is deficit of vitamin K2. So vitamin K2, first of all, is only found in grass-fed protein or dairy, and there's also a vegetable that the Japanese eat called dish called natto, which is actually the highest concentration of vitamin K2, but nobody in America really eats it, or outside of Asia, and even within Japan, it's really only in the eastern sort of Tokyo area. So unless you're eating grass-fed dairy or beef, you don't have K2 in your diet. Now, the importance of and I'll tell you why it's missing in our diet. So up until about the 50s, cattle and chicken were all raised in pastures, right? So Grass and green things, like we talked about, have chlorophyll, and they have also something called vitamin K1, which your listeners may be familiar with. It's found in anything green, kale, spinach, and K1 is known for it's what's called its blood clotting benefits. So you can eat lots of K1 and have lots of blood clotting benefits, but you will never get an ounce of K2 out of it. Only the animals have in their gut a bacteria that converts K1, which they get from the grass, into K2. And when we eat the dairy or the animal protein from a grass-fed animal, we then absorb the K2. But here's what happened. In the 50s, the farmers discovered that if they added vitamin D and vitamin A to the feed of the cattle, they could move them inside into very claustrophobic, tiny enclosures and feed them corn and fatten them up in like a tenth of the time, which made them more money. So that's what they did. So starting this in the 60s, after the 60s, virtually no cattle or chicken or any of these animals were fed grass. They were all fed corn. Well, there isn't any K1 in corn. So slowly over the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the vitamin K2 virtually disappeared from our diet. Gone. Disappeared. And at the same time, by the way, osteoporosis started increasing. Heart disease started increasing at exactly the same rate. So here's what K2 does. When you eat dairy of any kind, and it has calcium in it, and so the calcium is supposed to go to your bones. And by the way, as you probably also know, your cells, all parts of your body, your organs are constantly regenerating themselves, including your bones and your teeth. They're constantly rescaling and rebuilding. So they release calcium too as they are being rebuilt. But what's happened is all this calcium, and people take vitamin D. We all know about taking vitamin D to help the absorption of the calcium. So far, so good, right? Calcium is supposed to be good for your bones, and D helps you with your absorption. Perfect. Here's the missing link. It's called K2, because what's been happening is all that calcium that we've been eating or from our bone being restructured the calcium is not going into our bones. It's spreading out through the rest of our body, because K2 does two things. It releases a protein called osteocalcin, which helps your bones to absorb the calcium. And it also releases a protein called matrix GLA protein, which prevents the calcium from moving into your blood vessels, your skin, your brain. So it does two things. It moves it out of places it shouldn't be, and it puts it where it should be. Because they've been finding that heart disease is actually not primarily caused by cholesterol. It's caused by too much calcium in your blood vessels. Your blood vessels calcify. They become hard and they build up so that they're immobile. And then when maybe something like either a piece of the calcium breaks off or some of the cholesterol moves through, the arteries are so clogged up with all this calcium that you have a heart attack or a stroke. That's what's causing heart disease, is the buildup of calcium in your blood vessels. Similarly, what's been happening is osteoporosis. People are taking all these calcium supplements, and the problem is without K2, all those calcium supplements, all the calcium's moving into your blood vessels, not your bones. Mm-hmm. So they've done so many studies, and there's a fantastic book I would like to recommend to your readers, your listeners. It's called Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox. The author her name is Kate Room Blue, and I'll spell that RHEAUME-Blue, BLEUE. And she's a Canadian naturopathic doctor. Again, the book is called Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox. And you can buy it at Amazon. And she explains everything so clearly. And you can just Google K2 and you'll start to see what's going on. So the bottom line is they're realizing that K2 is the most important thing in your diet, particularly if you are over the age of 30 or 40, because all that calcium that you've been taking all these years is gathering in your bloodstream. and you don't even know it until you have a heart attack, and then it's too late.
Oh,
You absolutely have to get yourself on K2, and the supplements again are not the answer, because there's something called K2, but it's usually made it's a synthetic. There's some complications, but it doesn't get absorbed as well. The best source is always from nature. And I had our algae tested back in February and just about danced on the tables when I found out that the chlorella in particular has almost, if you had 2 servings of it, you would meet your daily requirements, and even 1 serving might be sufficient of K2. Spirulina has half the amount as chlorella. So chlorella is the answer for people. And not only will it prevent the calcium from depositing in your bloodstream, it will reverse it. So if you have high blood pressure, or if you've been told that you are a candidate for a heart attack, get yourself on taking 2, 3, 4 servings of this chlorella if you want, but it will start moving that calcium out of your bloodstream. And for those of us I was just in LA, I was talking at a wellness conference in Beverly Hills, and so I gave my talk and I mentioned about the K2, because the other thing that K2 does, it basically moves the calcium away from places where it shouldn't be, like your brain. They're finding that absence of K2 is a main contributor to Alzheimer's. But for the Beverly Hills crowd, they were interested to find out that it also protects your skin, because the calcification is acidic and causes damage to the collagen, which leads to wrinkles. And the funny thing is, if I ever get a chance to meet you or any of your listeners, and it is what it is. I just happen to have really good skin, and it used to freak me out, to be perfectly honest, because I'm pretty old, and I have 2 sisters, and the one who had the cancer who's younger than me, and I have an older sister, and man, they've got some decent wrinkles going on there. I have none. And I just thought, what is going on here? And I think it's because I chow down 4 or 5 servings of chlorella every day, just because I love it. It's a main food group for me. And I think I've been chowing down K2 all this time and didn't even know it. I mean, I've got 7 years of eating algae under my belt, and uh, as a testimonial, you look at my skin, it's pretty it's freaky. It's really freaky.
well, you look at, and Asians being right now the largest population of algae consumers, and
Right?
I mean,
Look at their skin.
they have great skin to begin with,
Yeah,
but they're onto something.
yeah,
They're onto
yeah.
something for sure.
But this is the science. They only discovered vitamin K2 in 1975, and then they only discovered in 2007 that virtually everyone outside of Asia is deficient, and that it was a main contributor to heart disease. And I actually contacted the American Heart Association just on Friday, because we want to start working with them, and I'm going to send them all our science, so that we can start working with them, because this is a really important message to get out. So I'm very, very delighted that I found it out in time for this conversation with you, so that your community can start learning about K2, and that the fact that it's in the chlorella in a big way.
That's great, because a lot of listeners are plant-based or don't consume dairy. I'm allergic to dairy,
Yeah,
and the dairy has to be raw. It can't be, the conventionally milked dairy. And a lot of states it's illegal to even
right,
purchase raw dairy. Um and then like you said, the meat, if you wanted to get K2, needs to be grass fed, the cow or the
right.
bison or the beefalo. I've actually, if you've never heard of beefalo, and I don't my household has been going mostly meatless, so we don't do this anymore. But um, a listener turned us on to last year a man who grows. He basically has a big field. And he lets beefalo, which is a hybrid between a cow and a bison,
Yeah,
and he just lets them, graze and have a wonderful life, and then you can purchase part of it. And so we bought a quarter of the beefalo, and it fed our entire family for the whole summer. Um, and in that way, you're getting some of your K2.
right.
But if you want to be sustainable, because now we're looking
Yep,
at that, it is completely unsustainable to continue what we're doing with the amount of
Exactly. I
farm
know.
animals, and then of course the impact on our environment to grow all
Right.
the food to feed the animals when we could just grow food to feed ourselves. Um, but also the health. There's huge health benefits in reducing. If a lot of listeners, I mean, I understand or have maybe some trepidation around completely going meatless, but what I would say is if there's a lot of science that is proven, and you can read this in the book Fast Food Genocide by Dr. Joel Furman, and he was on the show
Yeah.
stating this, that if you reduce your calories to 10% of your calories coming from animal products. So listen, if you don't want to go totally vegetarian or totally vegan, if you reduce your calories to 10%, so kind of like Dr. Mark Hyman talked about on the show, becoming more like
Right.
a pegan, where you're using
Yeah,
meat
I know.
as
I
a
love that. I read that about his
right,
pecan. Yeah, I
right,
thought that was
pegan.
great.
It's
And he's
a
right on.
yeah,
He's right
just
on.
eat a little bit of paleo, eat a little bit of vegan, but it's like have you can spend $20 a pound on meat when you're only eating 4 ounces a
Right.
few times a week, right? And
Right.
use meat if you're not going to go completely plant based. You use meat by the highest quality. We don't need to sit down for a 12-ounce steak. It's if because conventionally grown meat is really damaging to the body. But if you want to
Right.
eat meat for the health benefits, then look to get the totally organic, pasture raised, and just eat it like once a week or a few times a
Right.
week. And
Right.
so that's one way of getting K2, right? But a lot of people are allergic to dairy, so they can't get it that way. Um, a lot of people don't have access to or
Natto. Yeah.
that kind of meat. So then their option is either eating natto, which is this kind of really
Yeah.
gross,
Oh, I know.
slimy
Oh, I
looking.
know. Oh, I
I've
know.
looked it up. It looks like slimy fermented soybeans, which I'm sure is delicious in Japan, but
Yeah.
it's not easily accessible here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we just pop a few of the recovery
Chlorella.
bits, a few of the
There you go.
chlorella, and then we've
Yeah.
got huge amounts of K2, which is what helps the body assimilate calcium into the bones. It brings the calcium into the bones, and it also helps with healthy blood, and so that just makes total sense.
Yeah.
So in terms of looking to use food as medicine,
Yeah.
it's just such a no-brainer. And I remember in our first interview I kind of messed up at the beginning calling what you have your product a supplement. It's not a supplement, it's a
No.
crop. It's a
Yep.
food, it's a superfood. It just happens to be grown and then
Dried.
packaged in a way, yeah, dehydrated and packaged in a way that allows us to consume it really easily.
Right. Well, the other thing, just on that note, because a lot of people still give me pushback about, oh, it's a supplement. In March, Congress introduced the very first, you're going to love this, drum roll, Algae Agricultural Act. And and again, I was dancing on the tables because they've realized, even Congress is realizing the nutritional value of algae, that you get 100 times more protein per acre than you do from cattle ranching, and it's sustainable. So, and like I mentioned, almost 99% of it is grown in Asia. They want American farmers, yay, to start
Yeah.
growing it here. That's my dream. My dream is to have a huge algae farm here, maybe in Nevada or somewhere, and we'll have school buses coming in for tours to see how it's grown and packaged and all that jazz. But it reinforces that this is a crop. You can't have the algae agriculture crop about a supplement. How do you grow a supplement, right? You don't. You create one in a lab. Algae is a crop. And so and the other reason they're doing this is because they've also realized, another drum roll, algae, because we're getting into the sustainability thing, algae captures carbon dioxide more than anything else in the world. So part of the
Wow.
Algae Agricultural Act is to provide carbon offsets to either companies that are involved with an algae farm or involved with algae in some way. They're finally getting it. And so I am so thrilled that people can clearly see that what we're talking about is a crop that just happens to have more nutrients per square, microgram than anything else in the world. And we're even working with, as I mentioned, Dr. D'Agostino, who works with NASA, because NASA wants to grow algae in space. So, and they've endorsed it, saying it has 1,000 times more nutrients than per gram than fruits or vegetables. So when you've got NASA, the United Nations, and now Congress, endorsing something that I've been beating the drums for 8 years.
That's so
I
cool.
I finally feel that people are getting it. It's like my dream come true. Oh my God.
That's
So
so
so it's
cool.
pretty,
To
yeah.
to touch on a bit of why algae is more eco-friendly and sustainable, I kind of I feel like my life's been transformed doing this podcast because at the beginning, before I started this podcast, my attitude was, screw sustainability. I'm going to make sure that whatever I eat is healthy for me. So if a cow is healthy for me, screw sustainability. Like, I mean, I'm generalizing here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like my idea was that somehow you had to choose like either sustainability or health. And I saw that people who were choosing sustainability were somehow um going to have ill health because they weren't making nutrition be their number one goal. Does that make sense? And then obviously my attitude in the last few years in doing this podcast has been transformed because now I'm seeing that it's not the case, that in fact when you choose sustainability, you are also choosing healthier foods. That and
Right.
and so I think a lot of people though are starting to come around and see that, oh wait a second, I don't actually have to be the martyr and suffer. My health does not have to suffer in order to be eco-friendly, but
Right.
that in being eco-friendly, we are actually choosing crops and choosing foods that are healthier for us and that happen to also be healthier for the environment, which in turn is then healthier for us down the road. So, can you talk a little bit about why algae is more sustainable? I mean, beyond, do you have any more points to bring up beyond what you've already shared?
Yeah. Well, and Mark Hyman also points out that we have the strongest ammunition we have to fight any issue is with our wallet and with our fork. So if your community does start to purchase more products that are good for the earth as well as for them, there's nothing. It's just going to happen. You will help evolve good change. It's just that simple. You have the power. It's like you have your vote, use it. You have your fork, you have your wallet, use it. So a couple other things I want to mention in addition to the amount of protein per acre, which is good for the land. Algae also is, as I mentioned, a sustainable source of omega-3. And I tell people, where do you think the fish get the omega-3 from? Because everyone's been rushing out to buy fish oil because they've heard about the anti-inflammation properties of omega-3, which is true. But there's two problems that have arisen. Number one, the demand has been so great that it has stripped the ocean of so many species of fish already. There are
Yeah.
dead zones because there aren't any fish left. And so that's disruptive to the environment, and it's only a matter of time. It disrupts everything. So, the fish get the algae, they eat the algae, they consolidate in their bodies. So why not go to the source that they're using? Go straight to the algae. Then you can preserve the oceans. It's also sustainable because we just grow the algae in the water tank and we let it dry and then we grow it again. So it's vegan. It protects the oceans. The other problem, and this is the one for your health issue, they've done tests on these fish oils, and 80% of them come up rancid. It's just the process of packaging it. You can't stop the oxidation process. It just happens. So the fish oil gets oxidates and becomes rancid. So now it causes inflammation. You're taking it to prevent inflammation. So you're at cross purposes. The algae never goes rancid, and it's always clean. So and that's the other issue. There's always, you're never really completely sure because that fish oil comes from the ocean, and the algae comes from water tanks. So you're much better off. The oceans are better off, and you're better off getting your omega-3 from a sustainable source like algae. The other issue is, I mentioned about the carbon dioxide capture. Algae also is responsible for up to 85% of the oxygen on Earth. So growing algae is really good for air quality. In fact, in Asia, I think it's in I don't know, is it Taipei? They have little pods, those like mini, like almost like an ATM room, where algae is growing, and you pay for 15 minutes of oxygen. You go in there and sit down and you breathe in the clean oxygen
Wow.
that algae has been releasing. Even IKEA, most people have probably heard of IKEA. They do a big trade show every year, and they built again a room made of algae for same thing. So you can go in there and breathe the air, and so that's pretty cool. Also, algae, because it kills bacteria. You may not know, but there is algae used in virtually every city's water processing plants because algae kills bacteria. So when we're growing the algae, they can reuse the water, and it uses about a tenth of the water that normal crops use. 80% of our freshwater aquifers are used for crops, agricultural crops in general. And yet our aquifers are drying up. So they don't know what's going to happen when they're gone. I mean, California already has droughts, and so does a lot of the western states. So algae can use the same water over and over and over again, and it's pure and clean. So it protects your water source. So and there's no waste. I don't know what the waste amount is for cattle or crops, but there's lots of. It's just I should get the number, but there is zero waste with algae. Zero, because there's no bones to discard. There's no things on corn to peel off. There's nothing. It's just completely 100% used. So no biomass waste at all. And I don't want to dwell on it because we don't work with algae as an energy source, but a lot of research has been done on algae as an alternate source for petro. And just to show you one interesting use of algae, in Amsterdam there was a building built a few years ago, and on all four sides of the building are plates of glass filled with water and algae. And I don't know how they do it, but because the algae it grows so fast and it releases energy when it's dividing and subdividing, that building is powered through the algae. They do not have any electrical source. They have no other source of power other than gathering energy from the algae grown on the outside of the building.
Whoa.
So pretty cool, huh?
That's phenomenal. Can you tell us more about the omegas? Is it omega-3, omega-6, omega-9? Is it long chain? Can you tell us? Is there any DHA? Like what?
There's DHA. I have to grab one of my nutrition charts. I don't have it right in front of me, so I don't have the breakdown. I will admit it's not a huge amount, but it is clean. And I wish I had that. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. Because it comes from food, you absorb all of it. I can't personally take fish oil because I get it repeats on me. It upsets my stomach. It's so concentrated. You never get any repeats from the algae. And sorry, I don't have the charts in front of me. But there is DHA and AHA, and there's also the as I mentioned, the GLA, which behaves like an omega-3. I was at a conference recently, and they were talking about, PUFAs and EFAs, and I asked this nutritionist, I said, poor old, omega-6 gets such a bad rap. Is it really the omega-6 that's harming us, or is it the processing of the omega-6? And she clarified for me, it's the processing. So when you get omega-6 it's usually found in processed foods, that throws off your balance, and that's what contributes to the problem, health issues. But because the omega-6 that's in the algae, the GLA, is not processed, because remember I said we don't use high heat, algae is an unprocessed food. It has all the anti-inflammation characteristics of the omega-3. So, and that's why it's in the mother's milk as well. So,
cool.
It is pretty cool. Yeah. Very, very happy about that.
I'd love to know how many now which one has more of the omegas, the chlorella or the spirulina?
Okay. So that's why we say the spirulina is good for your energy, your mental energy, and your physical energy, and your hunger. And some of the mental energy comes from the omega-3s. So they're quite different, and so they behave completely different in your body, and they give you completely different benefits. So you have to understand that spirulina is the one that's energizing and provides you with all that focus. But the chlorella is really your health and wellness algae. And in fact, we put a little W stamp on the tablet, so it stands for wellness. And you recover your health. So chlorella is a health algae, and spirulina is an energizing algae. And I tell people, well, yeah, Mother Nature, she had one heck of a sense of humor because she gives us spirulina so we have enough energy to go out and conquer the day and go to a party maybe. And then she gives us chlorella. So at the end of the day, we come back from the party or our great workout, and we take our serving to pull out the toxins or to pull out the alcohol, and we get to do it all again the next day. So
I'm
she's got us covered.
I'm on
Yeah.
your website and I found the information.
Oh, good.
It's actually
Okay.
really easy to find. Like, so for listeners, if you go to energybits.com and then scroll down to where you see the green bag and the blue bag and then the two pink bags right there along sort of the middle of the page, I just click on the blue bag, which is Energy Bits, and that is the spirulina.
Yes.
And then if you scroll down and click on, you'll see a tab that says additional information. There's tons of info. And then you scroll all the way to the bottom and there's this gorgeous, huge graphic that shows like, it's got to be at least over 100 different nutrients. I'm looking at it. It has all the different essential fatty acid breakdown. And it has the phytonutrient breakdown, the vitamin breakdown, minerals, amino acid breakdown, and it just looks like, this looks like the best multivitamin out there.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, we haven't even, I'm sure there's probably another 20 or 30 trace minerals that we haven't tested for. And now I'll probably try to do that when we test them again next time. But yeah, the other way to find that chart is just go to the product page and it's there. We want people to have as much knowledge as possible. We're actually building a new website. It should be live in August or September, but those charts will always be there for you. They'll always be there, just like algae. It's your best friend, always there.
What has, out of all the testimonials you've received, what surprised you the most? Has there been one that just really like, oh, I didn't know that was a benefit?
Well, that's sort of what happens with me. People tell me, "Oh, I got off my allergy medication." I'm thinking, "Well, I wonder what it is that's helping that." And so I will do a deep dive. And someone used to tell me, "Oh man, I'm sleeping so much better." And I'm thinking, "Why is it? Why are people sleeping?" So I did a deep dive, and here's another great benefit of recovery bits. Da 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 da. Drum roll. It has the highest concentration of tryptophan in the world. People know that
Yes.
turkey has tryptophan, but algae has 5 times, the chlorella has 5 times the amount of tryptophan. And tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin, which is the mood transmitter, and melatonin, which helps you sleep. So I'm particularly thrilled that we tell people to take recovery bits at night because it will help you with your sleeping, and it's all natural. So that was a really cool thing. And that's what I love. I learn so much from my clients because they say, "Oh, I'm sleeping well." I'm thinking, I wonder what's going on there. And that's what led me to the vitamin K2. We used to have people after 2 or 3 days, if they had high blood pressure, they would say, "Hey, my blood pressure is normal again." I'm thinking, what is it that's in the algae that's doing that? It's a combination of, the omega-3 that helps with the reduced inflammation, and it's a vasodilator. But then I think the K2 automatically kicks in and starts clearing out that calcification. So it is really cool. I am like a bit of a mad scientist, and my staff almost sometimes I think they're worried about when they come in on Mondays. It's like, "Oh my God, what did she cook up on the weekend this time?" "Oh, you guys, guess what? I guess what I found out is in our algae."
That's so cool. Now,
Yeah.
you have some tips for how to get people to eat it, like our children or our husbands, if they are like, "Ew, you want me to eat
Yeah.
these little green tablets? Like, you want me to
Right.
chew green tablets?" They kind of, like I said, they look like aspirins. Like, they're punched into these little tablets for
Yeah.
convenience, but
Yeah.
they're not actually pills. They're
Nope.
food you chew.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you should, I don't know if you thought of this, but maybe you should take the M&M approach, like M&M and the peanut M&Ms,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
should take the macadamia nuts and then like press the chlorella. Is it the chlorella that goes well with the macadamia nuts? That's the
Yes.
recovery
Yes.
bits. Yeah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
should like maybe see if you can get like press the chlorella around the macadamia nut. I don't know if it would
Right.
stick, but
Right.
it'd be like
Well, Well, we are actually, I don't know if I told you, we are going to launch a product. It's going to be like a trail mix, and it's going to be the chlorella and the macadamia. And the trouble
Right.
is, I have to figure out how to package them because the macadamians are so rich in fat that they make the chlorella soggy. So we have to package them separately. So I know, but you're going to love this. So we're going to call them mac and bits. So
Yes.
that'll attract the kids because it's like mac and cheese, right? But to help people start using them a little bit more and see them as food, and we call them bits because they're so cute. They're these little bits of food. Use them as a garnish. The recovery bits, particular, are a fantastic garnish on your salads instead of croutons because they give you a nice crunch and they hide within the salad so people can't really see them initially, and they add a little saltiness to them. Some people have told me they if they don't have macadamia nuts, they put a little bit of sea salt, and that almost gives the same kind of neat flavor. So it is like a nut. We have had moms tuck them inside little raspberries and make them like a little surprise for the children, or they make happy faces on their plates out of them. If you turn it into a game with the kids, they really do love them.
Yep.
And just one little side note on the K2, they're terrific for kids because a lot of injuries, children are playing a lot of sports and they get a lot of broken arms. And if you can get the K2 into them from the chlorella, it will strengthen their bones because the calcium is moving into their bones and not into other parts of their body. Other things that, they always taste great with nuts. We're trying to find more creative ways you can use them in baking. We're going to start having recipes that you can use, but that's just starting. So you can grind them up and put them in a smoothie. That's what our NHL players do. They put like 3 servings worth in a smoothie and down the hatch. A lot of people, we do hope one day to offer both of them as a powder, but that might be, another year coming. So until then, just grind them up. And I chose to do the tablets because they're easier to carry with you in your handbag or your gym bag. Just tuck them away. So when you're hungry or tired or stuck in traffic and you don't want to snack on a bagel, then you've got your Algae handy.
It's a replacement for Starbucks. I mean,
yeah.
If you've got the energy bits, which is the spirulina, or you have the vitality bits, which is the mixture between the spirulina and the chlorella, is absolutely replacement for the afternoon coffee,
Yeah.
or the afternoon snack. And it's about the same price. So,
Yeah.
if you eat a snack around 3 p.m. or so, sometime between lunch and when you get home from work, or you need that second cup of coffee, you could absolutely replace that afternoon caffeine. You could replace the morning caffeine. Just give it a
Yeah.
shot. I was really impressed with how much energy it gave us. And for me, I just take it and I take a handful, a good 20 or 30 tablets, and I put them on my husband's desk while he's working, and he just sits or stands there, and just because it's a sort of a very high table, so he can sit on a high chair, like a bar. He has sort of this high chair, bar stool kind of
Right.
thing, or he stands when he works, and works at the laptop, and then he just one at a time just pops in his
Yeah.
mouth, chews
Yeah.
them, drinks his water, just sort of that mindless, that how you
Yep.
love that, we all love that mindless, like popcorn, kind of just sit there and
Right.
pop it into our mouth.
Right.
And so I'm responsible for sort of walking around with the big bag of recovery bits, and just, or the energy bits, and just handing everyone in the household
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
handful.
Yeah.
And my son just loves it. I mean,
Yeah.
at first he didn't. It took me a few tries, but when he got the game of make your tongue, Duffy and I, my husband, were both eating it, and then we stuck our tongues out at him, and that was just where he
That was
busted.
it.
He's
Right.
laughed. He
Right.
thought it was so
Right.
funny,
Yeah.
and the first time you eat it, I think because we just don't know what to expect, the flavor, it's like it's just different. And
Yeah.
then and so you're like, "Oh, I don't know if I can handle this," but just keep going, because
Yeah.
after a few times, you actually start to really like it,
Crave it.
and
Yeah.
crave it,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it actually has a quite complex flavor. It has a sweetness and a saltiness to it.
Yeah.
But it's not intense. I mean, it absolutely, like you said, you could hide it in a salad, or hide it with fruit, or hide it in a smoothie if you couldn't stand it. But I like it, and my 3-year-old, who's picky, like I said, is enjoying it. That's really cool. And for
Yeah.
those who might worry about the cost, I really challenge you to use it to replace what you would always already be paying for, coffee and a snack in the afternoon, and replace that and see how it goes. Um,
Well, and also consider the fact that you are going to protect your health.
mm,
Lots of times, this is more than food. This is health protection. And when you get sick, I mean, things just fall apart. And I think the majority I've read a statistic that most bankruptcies in America were caused by a health issue,
mm.
and people just didn't have the money to pay for all those treatments. So don't see it as just a food. See it as something that's going to benefit you from a health perspective as well. And there's nothing you're going to learn. You're going to hear more and more about algae. You can't keep something as great as algae hidden for much longer. And I'm trying to do my best to learn as much as I can so I can share it. But it's pretty amazing stuff. Just one more thing on the snack side. A lot of people love it. I've had pictures sent to me of tucked onto a peanut butter sandwich or something, or put it, if someone really doesn't like the flavor, put it in a spoonful of a nut butter and mix it up. Coconut tastes great with coconut chips, chocolate, dark chocolate, and
Oh,
chlorella.
I can
There's
see
something.
that.
Dark chocolate and the chlorella is awesome. So we'll be trying to figure that one out too. My dream, as you mentioned, we might not be able to wrap the chlorella around a macadamia nut, but we will definitely try to dip it in chocolate, dark
Oh
chocolate.
yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Make the healthy M&Ms, where
yeah,
you put chocolate around a chlorella. I think you should totally do
yeah.
that for
We'll be
sure.
the healthiest sin food in the world.
Oh yeah, dark chocolate's super healthy. And
Yeah,
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 absolutely.
yeah.
Um,
So
delicious.
see,
Now, you have mentioned a lot of different, I know with the FDA you can't make health claims, obviously, because you're not a pharmaceutical company.
right, right.
So, because of course only drugs can treat any disease, but we don't have to treat a disease. We just support the body's ability to heal itself.
Exactly.
Now you've mentioned a lot of different conditions that the body can use algae to correct or prevent:
Right.
cancer, heart disease, depression, obviously because of the precursors that it has. It is food, the
And the
precursors
fat.
to creating serotonin and melatonin, which are wonderful to regulate the body's circadian rhythm, get us a correct amount of sleep, a deep and healthy sleep. And also, I don't know if you know this about melatonin, but it actually keeps the pineal gland uncalcified. The
Right.
problem with the pineal gland, it's this tiny little gland sort of right smack in the middle of it's sort of where your third eye would be. And that
Third eye.
there's a lot of,
Right, right.
belief that when people meditate and they look up, they're looking at their pineal gland, but that the pineal gland becomes calcified, and that leads to aging and death, or is,
Right.
part of it. Whereas melatonin keeps the pineal gland clean and uncalcified, and
And so
that
does K2.
yeah, there you go. And both
There you go.
K2 and also the precursors to creating enough melatonin are in the algae. Which one is it, spirulina or chlorella, that has more of the K2?
Chlorella.
Okay, so chlorella has more of the
Yeah.
K2, and is chlorella also the one that has more of the tryptophan?
Yes. That's why chlorella every single time, hands down, it's
Yeah,
the health and wellness algae every
got it.
single time. Health and wellness for chlorella, energy for spirulina. That's pretty
Great.
much that's the way to think it through.
Got it.
Um, but also the algae is really great for anemia. Chlorella again has the highest concentration of iron in the world, 48 times more than spinach. Iron is what carries oxygen in your blood, and so if you don't have enough oxygen, you are fatigued. Um,
Mm.
so um, young girls, any age, but particularly women need a lot of iron. So, but again, it's the chlorella, it's the recovery bits that does it. So, it's also great for your skin. As I mentioned, it helps because it's so alkaline. It keeps the blemishes, the bacteria down on your skin, and
Ooh.
it has a high concentration of protein, which builds the collagen in your skin and the keratin in your hair. And again, the K2 keeps the excess calcium out of your skin so it doesn't calcify and contribute to wrinkles. So skin and hair health is really big with the algae. So it's beauty from within.
Does the recovery bits, which is the chlorella, um, does it have any properties that would aid someone who has an autoimmune condition? Does it help to clean up the gut, heal leaky gut, correct the immune system, or support the immune system? Can you speak to that?
Well, we've had mixed results on the autoimmune. Some people, and same with the research I've done, because it's an adaptogen, it won't overstimulate your immune system if you have an autoimmune disease. There's an autoimmune disease is also often could be something else. It could well be manifesting as an autoimmune disease, but maybe you have Lyme disease or maybe you have something else, but it's
Mm-hmm.
manifesting. So I don't, again, this is an area I'm not well versed in, so I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
say too much about autoimmune because I don't until I've researched it myself. But it does help with the lower intestinal health. They've used, again, chlorella. They've used it for decades for IBS and Crohn's disease. And I again wondered what was it doing? So then I found out that, of course, chlorella has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. Well, it turns out that only about 10% of chlorophyll is absorbed in your stomach. The rest of it stays through your entire intestinal tract, goes through your liver and down through your colon. And chlorophyll absorbs carcinogens. And again, remember I said it was a fat-based pigment, so it heals the cell walls. So it's healing, if you have IBS or Crohn's disease, it's healing your lower intestinal cellular structure all the way down. And because chlorophyll absorbs carcinogens, and a lot of colon cancer is caused by people who is caused by too many your carcinogens and your digestive movement not being healthy. So it sits there for days, and the carcinogens and the toxins get reabsorbed into your bloodstream, and years later you might end up with colon cancer. So the chlorella, because of the high chlorophyll that absorbs the carcinogens, and because the chlorella attaches the toxins and pulls them out, it cleans out your lower intestine. And it's used to support peristalsis, which is the wave movement of your elimination process. I'll tell you, I have my tea and my chlorella in the morning. And about 5 minutes later, boom, business done. I'm good and ready for the day. Every day, it's a beautiful thing. Elimination is very, very important to your health.
Now
And
you
very
had,
happy.
oh, absolutely, the healthy bowel movements are I did a whole episode on how to have the perfect poop
Yeah.
with Dr. Heidi Samani. So that was in the first like maybe 20 episodes, somewhere in there, way
Yeah.
back at the beginning.
Yeah.
Good episode to go listen to for those who have
Yeah.
diarrhea or constipation, or are
Yeah.
concerned that they're not pooping enough or pooping healthfully. It's a whole episode dedicated to that. Um you had mentioned to me that it helps with ADHD. So it helps with those. I'm imagining parents are now listening, like, "Oh, I want to help my student, my child who's a student, or maybe there's some college kids wanting to have better concentration, or even adults."
Yep.
I know at one point my husband, this was before I met him, a doctor, doctors wanted to put him on Adderall,
Oh
and
God.
I mean, they're just. They hear you say you're having a bad day, and they pull out their prescription pad. But it was amazing when we switched our diet. Or this is like 10 years ago. I met my husband 10 years ago, and we started eating healthy. And then about 7 years ago, we got into eating healthy and mineral supplements, and it totally changed our lives. And he said to me, "I feel totally even keel." He just couldn't believe that. That was his first experience of like that food, that healthy eating could actually
Yeah.
directly affect your concentration and your energy levels and your mental clarity, like more than a drug could, like more than
Right.
any drug does.
Right.
And so you've told me that the algae can help with
Yes.
ADHD. Why is that?
Well, again, that one again is the spirulina because again, mental energy. So it's the and it's the beautiful thing of getting nutrients from food. There's so many synergistic things that happen with the algae the ADHD is primarily from the spirulina, which is based on the high fat content because of the GLA and the omega-3. It's because algae is The spirulina is a nitrogen-based algae, so it's what's called a vasodilator. So it helps open the blood vessels, which allows the blood to flow faster, which brings more oxygen to your muscles and to your brain so that you can think better. It's loaded with the B vitamins. Spirulina has more B vitamins than the chlorella, and B vitamins convert glucose into energy, and they also help with the methylation process. So that helps bring more energy. Your brain uses up 20% of your energy. It sucks energy out of your body.
Oh,
So
for
anything
sure.
that facilitates your energy will certainly be facilitating brain power. So it's the Bs, the vasodilator, the omega-3s, has a lot of iron. So again, it carries oxygen. I know I'm missing something. I can't. High concentration of protein, all of which are already in amino acid for both of them, so that you don't have to wait to get access to those aminos, and they cross the blood-brain barrier. So I think those are the main ones. I'm sorry if I'm blanking out on. It's been a
It's
while since
okay.
actually, but I've been asked that question. But we did years ago. We had lots of school teachers who were also teaching gym, and you started giving them to their kids, and they said they couldn't believe the difference. The focus of the athletes was so much higher when they had
Wow.
the spirulina, and even our regular athletes who marathoners or Olympic athletes, regular athletes, right? What's regular about an Olympic athlete, right? They again started taking the spirulina for the physical energy, but what they said was they never expected was the mental focus. Now, when you're fatigued, whether you're at work or working out, the first thing that goes is your focus. And if you're a marathon runner and you're on mile 20, man, you don't have a lot more to go, but those are the hardest few last miles, and primarily because your focus is gone, especially if you're based on a sugar or carb machine. So the focus is a very important part, but that comes from the spirulina. I have not noticed either anecdotally or from anybody that the chlorella does that. Chlorella will not satisfy your hunger. It will not give you energy. It's the health and wellness algae. Yeah, so the spirulina algae is truly the one that gives you energy and focus, and then the chlorella, which we call recovery bits, is your health and wellness algae. And together, they're a perfect partnership, and that's why we call them our power couple. So look out, New York, we've got a different power couple on board.
It would be interesting to know, like, how many would it take to eat in a day to get to 1 gram of omegas? So omega-3, omega-6, omega-9, like all the omegas combined, because naturopaths look to heal something, they'll
Right.
prescribe by the gram.
Right.
And
Well, the problem is a lot of the vitamins have higher nutrient counts because they know only a certain percent, a very small percent, gets absorbed.
oh,
So you need, 5,000 IUs of vitamin C because you're only going to absorb 50 of them because they're supplements, they're artificial. With algae, you absorb everything, so it's 100% bioavailable. So you just can't compare apples and oranges. It just doesn't work that way. So it doesn't matter how I add it up; it will never be a straight comparison. And because algae's food, and there's so many other synergistic components that work to facilitate the absorption and the proper utilization of the nutrients, again, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's the best way to say it.
that makes a
So
lot of sense. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. It's
and
more
that's the beauty.
bioavailable.
Yeah, that's the beauty of nature. That is nature.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing more about algae. I can see why you have dedicated your life to having this be something that is widely accepted and used in the United States and in, the Western world. I can also see why we want it to be a crop here. I mean,
Yes,
it's
you got it.
absolutely amazing how
Yeah.
we could be feeding not only the people around the world who are hungry in such a fast time. Like you said, the crop is like a 30-day turnover. But we could be saving our planet, saving, our environment, even our local environment, and also using a food that just happens to also be the much healthier than eating livestock. So very excited
Yeah.
to, for me, very excited to continue eating it. I want to see in 7 years if my skin looks as good as yours.
Well, we'll see what happens to me in 7 years, won't we?
Right? Excellent. And thank you
Yeah,
so much for giving a discount to my listeners. I really
you're
appreciate
very, very
that.
welcome.
So
And
oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, and I really truly hope that if I'm able to grow this in America and can be able to control our costs a little bit more, then maybe I'll be able to get the price down a little bit, because I do want this to be accessible to people wherever they are. So
Absolutely.
I'll just throw that out there.
Right.
So
It's about the cost of if you had a coffee and a snack in the afternoon, that's how much it costs. But instead, you're like you said, you could replace your energy drink or your,
vitamins,
vitamins, your protein drink, all those things cost much more than taking the recovery bits and the energy bits every day. So listeners can go to energybits.com and use the coupon code LTH to get 20% off anytime they want. And then just to clarify, green bag is the chlorella, and that's if anyone has any health issues, because that's like
right?
the healthy one. If they want energy and protein, like a food, then they get the energy bits, which is the green bag.
The blue bag.
Sorry,
That one's the blue
yeah,
bag.
I'll say that again. I'm like looking at it. The energy bits, which is the blue bag. So green for health, blue for energy. And or if they want a combination of the two, they can go for the vitality bits. Or
Right.
and if they want the light pink one, the skinny bits, that's just because
Pink.
they want pink. They want it to look pretty.
Hey, we're girls, right? What's wrong with that?
Excellent. Well,
Good stuff.
thank you so much for coming on the show, and I
You're
can't wait to have
welcome.
you back on the show. I know you're someone who constantly researches, and so the next time you come on, you'll have lots of new and wonderful, exciting
I hope
studies and
so.
information to share with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you again so much. And if anyone has questions, they can reach out to you or to me. And definitely get yourself that book, Vitamin K2 and the Calcium Paradox. It's well worth the read.
Absolutely. Listeners can email ashley@learntourhealth.com, and I'll relay if any listener wants to get a hold of you, I can definitely make the introduction.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Thanks again. Be well.
After hearing everything that Catharine shared about the power of spirulina and chlorella and the difference it makes to buy it from a company that produces a high quality chlorella and spirulina that is tested twice for purity to make sure that there's no heavy metals or pollution or toxins in it, so you know you're getting a pure food, a pure superfood, I definitely want you to try her energy bits. They've made a big difference in my family's life, and the listeners who've tried it and reached out to me and let me know, they've all told me it's made a difference in theirs. And so I know you're listening to this podcast, the Learn True Health podcast, because you're looking to improve your health. We're always looking to obviously have better health. What is life without health? That's the most important thing we have, is our health. So definitely give it a shot. I know some people find the price to be a little jarring, but if you consider replacing one of your coffees or one of your snacks every day with the chlorella, then it actually evens out. You'll also get 20% off by using the coupon code LTH. So go to energybits.com and choose the blue package for the spirulina, that's for the energy, or the green package, that's my favorite, that's the one my family eats every day, that is the chlorella, and that's what has the K2 in it and all the wonderful omegas, and also the special properties of removing the heavy metals. You grab a bag of that and then put in the coupon code LTH to get your 20% off. Give it a try and see how you feel. Make sure you feed it to your children also and notice a difference. And then please write me, let me know. I want to hear from you. Write me, ashley@learntruehealth.com, and let me know what difference that the chlorella and the spirulina from Energy Bits makes in your life. I also would love for you to join the Learn True Health Facebook group. Go to Facebook and search Learn True Health. Join the group, and let's have a discussion in the group. Let's talk about this, and I'd love to hear from you. I can't wait to hear about what Energy Bits is doing in your life.